Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam, KYG. Thank you for joining in this class. As always, it's my greatest honor and privilege to be able to share this ancient wisdom with you all. This is a mindful learning where we learn with reverence and humility and a heart filled with gratitude. And therefore, let us begin this mindful class with 3 Oms. Allow the sound of Oms to open your heart, open your mind, to be ready to receive wisdom from the higher dimensions. So in this journey of the 5 elements, which is the fundamental journey, we are visiting different temples, learning at the site, at the premises of these temples. We begin our learning there. Virtual though it may be, but nevertheless, as long as the mind is there, the heart is open, we are there. For those of us who know the power of thoughts, that is how it is. We are not simply there in imagination. It may seem like that, but that is another level of reality where you are where your mind is. So in today's class, we will take a trip back to the temple premises. And I have a video. I didn't get a chance to edit it into shorter pieces, so bear with me. It's a long video. But before we go there, as we learn this element of Vayu or air, which is the 4th of the 5 elements, we have to understand that Vayu signifies strength. Bhima, an ancient warrior, one of the 5 Pandavas, for those of you who know the story of Mahabharata, was considered the son of Vayu. He was the strongest among all warriors the earth has ever seen, so the tale goes. But whether that is true or not, whether it happened or not, is besides the point. What is important for us as students of Vayu element is to consider that among the 5 brothers, Bhima, who was the strongest, was considered the son of Vayu, or the son of the wind god. In the story of Ramayana, Hanuman, another symbol of power and strength, is considered as a son of the wind god. And therefore he is known as Maruti. Maruti is born of Marut. Marut means wind. Hanuman and Bhima are connected with the Vayu element. So it is enough for us to take home at this point that Vayu signifies strength. Physical strength, yes, of course, that's where it all begins. Our understanding begins with the body because it is easy for us to perceive the body. We can relate to a strong body. We have seen strong bodies, we perhaps have strong bodies, and so we can relate to strength in a physical form. But that is just the beginning. Vayu does not give only strength to the body. Bala Buddhi Vidya. Bala Buddhi is the strength of the body, the strength of the intellect. The just as the body is strong and it is able to withstand stress, the mind is strong, the buddhi is strong, the intellect is strong, and therefore able to comprehend higher wisdom, able to open itself to receiving higher wisdom. You need to have a strong mind to do that. We need to have a strong mind to have indomitable faith in ourselves, that the very essence of who we are never dies, was never born, will never die, will always be there. But for that faith to be there and to become real at some point, we need to have strength, and that strength comes from the mind. And so it is not just strength of the body, but strength of the mind as well. So these ancient warriors, the strongest among them, were linked to Vayu. So as we go along in this path, in the next few classes, we will learn techniques of Vayu that will help us bring strength to our body and strength to the mind. Strangely, one of the asanas that we do, I'm simply introducing these concepts and then we will take them up more systematically from the next class. One of the asanas that symbolizes strength, strangely, is Vajrasana. Vajrasana, and I'll demonstrate in the next class. I didn't have a time to get that. But Vajrasana is a way of seated, like the Japanese meditation, how you sit with your knees folded and you sit on your heels. For those of you who practice yoga will know this, Vajrasana. Why is that considered to be associated with strength? That is not building your muscle. But the name of the asana is Vajrasana, Vajra. It is said Hanuman's body was like Vajra, like diamond, strong like diamond, right? We use diamond to cut so many other things because diamond by itself is very, very strong. And therefore Vajra means strong as diamond. And this asana represents Vajrasana. Why? Because when you sit in that asana, you experience not strength, not the way you and I understand it, but we experience stillness. The body is very naturally placed, well placed, and is perfectly still. Stillness is strength in yoga. Stillness is strength in yoga. Stillness also means samatvam, means balance. How are you still? Because you're not moving this side or this side, you're right in the center. The ability to stay still, the ability to stand still, the ability to be in a pose called asana means ability to be peacefully engaged, happily engaged in that pose. Being established in that pose needs strength of the mind. And that strength comes through the breath. That being established in the pose, being still in the pose, comes from the breath. And when that breath is activated and one begins to engage in that kind of breathing, then one experiences stillness. That stillness in turn begins to embed the idea of strength in the mind. And that becomes a fundamental training before any spiritual practice. One has to be still, one has to be steady, one has to be in a state of equanimity. All of these are very, very closely related. They may not mean the same, but they are very closely related. Samatvam yogamuchyate, says the Gita. The essence of Gita is what? Equanimity. Samatvam. That's why we talked about the Samana Vayu, right? Everything in yoga is about the Samana Vayu, the one in the navel region. And you'll hear about that again in the video, because I introduced that in the temple premises, and before too late I want to put that out. So we seek the blessings of Shiva as we proceed in this path. Samatvam is equanimity. That is the true yoga. You might say, but what about devotion? Well, in the chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, again in devotion, When Krishna explains what is real devotion, who are my favorite devotees, he says, Santushtaha satatam yogi yatatma dhridanishchayaha maya arpita manobuddhir yo mad bhakta same priyaha. That bhakta is very dear to me. Who? Santushtaha satatam yogi. That yogi who is always in a state of equanimity. All of this is related to the breath. Because the more subtler we are going to these elements, the more we get exposed to the more subtler concepts. Alright? So, equanimity is established through Vayu element. Breath is one of the means of experiencing Vayu or the wind. And therefore we experience equanimity, and that equanimity, when I carry it into my day-to-day, Santushtaha, Santushta means Santosha. Santosha is contentment, equanimity. Satatam yogi, Satatam, always content. That yogi who is always content. Santushta Satatam yogi yatatma dhridanishchayaha. And because of that contentment, he is firmly established in that state of equanimity. Firmly established. Now, when you hear this, you might say, well, wait a minute. I mean, that sounds so robotic, sounds so inhuman. Should I not cry? Should I not laugh? What does that mean? I mean, shouldn't I experience pain and joy and laughter? Do I lose my equanimity then? So the way I explain that in yoga is the tree pose. When you do a tree pose, simply standing on one foot, basically, what happens is you tend to lose, you tend to move this way, that way, right? So the tree sways in a storm. The wind blows, there is gentle swaying. In a storm, the tree is tested, right? Even if it's an oak tree, it goes all the way. If you see coconut trees, for example, in the coastline during stormy times, the trees sway. Excuse me. The trees sway. Now, as long as the tree is not uprooted, it is believed that the tree is maintaining its equanimity. The equanimity is in the roots of the tree being firmly established in the ground, not in the lack or the extent of swaying. It has nothing to do with swaying. It has nothing to do with your laughter and joy. It has nothing to do with your up and down in your everyday life. Deep inside you, when you close your eyes and go within, where do you go to? Where does your mind find rest? Where are your roots? That determines the state of equanimity. So it is not to make you robotic, it's not to make you live an inhuman life. You can feel a little upset when things don't go your way, but those little storms of life, do they uproot the tree? That is the question we need to ask. The roots go deeper into the ground, dig deeper into the ground, and makes the tree stronger. So the storm makes the tree stronger, and so it actually helps me build that equanimity. Dhridanishchayaha helps me become more firmly established in spirituality, in the belief that I am eternal. I am part of the Shiva consciousness. When I learn to go back to that home of mine, then equanimity results. So this is what even in Krishna talks about in the Gita. So that equanimity, where does it come? That is what we are searching for, you and I and all of us in our spiritual practices. Why? I want peace, I want calmness, I want stillness. How will it come? The Vayu element in your body has to be examined. The Vayu element has to be controlled, because when Vayu goes out of control, Vayu means wind, when the wind goes out of control, the belly, fire, the fire goes out of control, because fire is sustained and maintained by wind, right? The water again can become very uncontrolled if the wind is uncontrolled. So the wind becomes the predominant factor, and therefore once you control the wind, guess what? The fire in the belly is controlled. The Agni element is controlled. The water element is controlled. The earth feels lighter. That is the beauty of the Vayu element, and therefore Vayu is associated with strength. If you understand the secrets of the breath, if you understand that the breath is that passage that takes you into the realms of the mind and beyond, and respect the breath rather than taking it for granted, which most of us do, then you will begin to understand that you begin to get your hands on the very secret of longevity, on health, on equanimity, on peace, and all of these will stop being concepts. They will begin to become reality in our everyday life. I wanted to share that because just as we started the class, this thought came very powerfully to me, and I thought I should put that out to you about Vayu being strength. Now, I will take you to the temple, where it's a half an hour video. You will get to see very little of the temple initially. After that, there is a hill behind this temple which I climbed. It was about 5 days before Shivratri, 4 or 5 days, and there was so much loudspeakers. That's how India celebrates it. That's just the culture, okay? So there is so much loudspeaker chanting. It's beautiful when you're there, but when you want to record a video, then it might seem disturbing. But then this is how the universe planned. This is how Shiva wanted it, I guess. He wanted his name in the background to be chanted as I share this. So I consider it as a blessing. Hopefully the voice is clear, and I think it was to me when I listened to it. Hopefully you find it clear as well. One of the reasons why I explained Prana, Apana, Vyana, Samana and Udana in the last class was because, in case you don't find it clear, if you had listened to my last class, then when you listen to this video, you might follow along what I'm hoping to explain there. As with all these temples, I went there with great humility and prayer to Shiva. I said, I need to share this wisdom. You're driving me to share this wisdom. It's blessed my life so much, and I want to begin sharing it at your feet. And so it was a deep sense of prayer and reverence that I began sharing these thoughts extempore, just as they came to me. That morning with a little camera in front of me, I didn't give it much thought, simply because I wanted the divine to guide my voice. And therefore I'm very, very grateful that I was given this opportunity to sit in that holy place, in that holy mountain, and share these thoughts, which I'm going to share with you all. This is the 30-minute video, and at the end of it, we will end the class with Om Shanti, because I want you to take home with all these thoughts. I've introduced various ideas here, mudras. I've talked about the 5, the elements, of course, and the 5 Vayus and so on. So you will get all ideas. We are going to, the first couple of classes, we just open up the scope of what this class contains, and then we will get into a systematic study of each of these. So, over to Sri Kalahasti Temple. Om Namah Shivaya. Namaste, welcome to KYG. I am at another very holy spot. And as you know, I'm doing this, or you would have figured out by now, I'm doing this series of short lectures, just launching the Kaivalya Marga or the Kaivalya path through the understanding of the 5 elements. That is the very basis of traditional yoga practice. Understanding how these 5 elements reside in our body, what is our relation to them, how they express themselves through our thoughts, through our words, and through our actions. And so symbolically, with great prayer, reverence, and humility, I travel to these 5 different temples dedicated to Shiva consciousness, which are dedicated to each of these 5 elements. Today, this beautiful morning, as the sun is just about to rise, I'm at this very powerful temple called Sri Kalahasti. It is in a state in India, in South India, a state called Andhra Pradesh. It's an amazing, powerful portal dedicated to the wind element of Shiva. Wind element, that is in the region of the chest. We saw that the earth element was at the base of the spine, the water element just before that, above that, fire element above that, and the wind element sits on top of all these. The 4th element, the wind element. This temple is extremely powerful, and I'm on top of a hill behind the temple because they have this loudspeaker going on with chants. It's 5 days before Shivratri in 2020. 4 days now, and they've started a festival called Brahmotsavam, so the place is just packed with people, and there is chanting, singing, dancing going all over, so it's like a festive occasion down there. But I am at a temple behind me, and let me see if I can see that over here. It's dedicated to a devotee of Shiva called Kannappa Nayanar. A great story of devotion. So when he had 2 eyes, he couldn't see Shiva, and then finally he took off 1 eye, and when there was 1 eye left, Shiva comes to him and grants him darshan. This temple, Sri Kalahasti, intrigued me because there were now, unlike the water temple which had a spider and an elephant, the wind temple here, the Vayu Tattva, the temple is called Sri Kalahasti. These temples were not named now. It was not named 20 years ago or 100 years ago. These names have been in vogue for hundreds of, not thousands of years. So obviously there is a deep symbolism to this. Sri stands for spider. Again, Hasti stands for elephant. And in the middle of these two is Kala. Kala is time, but Kala is also symbolized as a serpent. Sri Kalahasti, the spider, the snake, and the elephant. The whole temple is named after that. A very beautiful temple, a very, very powerful temple. The Shakti principle here is Jnana Prasumba. It is, she's the very embodiment of knowledge. And so, this is another place where Shiva and Shakti, the energies of Shiva and Shakti come together to give us wisdom of the highest kind. And so again, with a great sense of privilege, I am launching this element from this temple. There is so much to learn in each of these elements. Okay, there are so many practices, there are so many mantras associated, there are so many sounds, and so on and so forth. There are lifetimes. So we'll go on exploring all of this. There are planets, there are chakras, and so on and so forth. But these are just symbolically, I want to launch it here, and then wherever I am in whichever part of the world, I can continue these lessons. The wind is also very, very subtle, like the spider. Just like we saw in the water, you have the spider kind of water, which is thin and delicate, and then you have the elephantine energy of the water. Think of the same thing with the wind. It could be extremely subtle. Then think of it when you are calm and deep in prayer and meditation. Your breathing is so subtle. Just you're breathing barely enough to keep yourself alive. Right? spider. On the other hand, when you're upset emotionally in some kind of trauma, or you're angry, or you're aroused in some manner, then your breathing is like a storm. You're breathing heavily. It's up and down, it's erratic, it's irregular, and so on and so forth. So that is the elephantine energy of the wind. You see, when we say that is the elephantine energy, understand that when there's erratic thoughts and trauma, when there is too much stress in our lifestyle, in our thinking, in our attitudes, and that begins to reflect in the breath, then the wind starts creating a storm, just like the storm outside. Why is the snake symbolism in the middle? Snake is in the middle, mind you. It was not Sri Kala Temple or Kala Sri Hasti Temple. It was Sri Kalahasti. The name is given. So Kala is in the middle. In other words, when the subtle form of the breath and the powerful energy of the breath are harmonized, then the serpent within awakens. The Kundalini within awakens. The divinity within awakens. So Kala is serpent, Kala is time, Kala is God, Kala is Shiva, Kala is Devi, Kala is Prakriti. Kala, the time element is so powerful because time is, you bring time from the past and future into the present, it becomes in the moment. And the whole secret of our existence, the whole secret of self-realization, everything is in that moment. Everything is about being in the moment. Mindfulness is about being in the moment. The whole spiritual practice is about being in the moment. So that moment, that Kala, the time, in other words, the divinity within awakens. She is in the middle, balanced between the spider and the elephant. Contemplate on it, think about it, see if it makes sense to you. It made perfect sense to me. The breath is an extremely powerful mechanism. In fact, most of our practices after asanas, and even along with yogasanas, hatha yoga, we practice it with the breath. And then we leave the body behind, move into the breath. The breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. The breath is the bridge. Without the bridge, you cannot connect from the body to the mind. The two organs that are associated with the breath are, one is the sense of touch, the skin. So the sense of touch in our face, because all the subtle organs are are located in the face. When I say subtle organs, I'm talking of the organs of perception, organs of knowledge, jnana indriyas. You have the tongue, you have the sense of touch, taste, smell, sight, sound, and touch. So touch, we go to either the lips or the cheeks. So the sense of touch, skin, is one organ, which is all over, right? So imagine Vayu is all over, the skin is all over. So Vayu is all over, but predominantly it's located in the face. And then you have the organ of action, the karma indriya, which is the hand, along with the 5 fingers. Not the whole arm. They're not talking bahu, they're saying kara. Kara is hands, so hands with all the fingers. Now you'd wonder, how is wind associated with this? The breath is very closely associated with fingers. Breath is the bridge between the body and the mind, I said, right? So when you're stressed, when you're nervous, what happens? Your breath is shaky, and when your breath is shaky and your mind is nervous and you are afraid or going through some kind of that period. Let's say you are, I'm trying to look for an example to explain this. Let's say you're suddenly asked to speak in front of 50,000 people. I've been there, done that in Puttaparthi, in Sai Baba's presence, in my Guru's presence. He would say, hey, come on, get up and speak. So you have butterflies in your stomach, you are shaking with nervousness, because I was fairly young that time. Anyway, the point was, when you are in that kind of state, the best thing is to watch your fingers. they will be like this. They will be fidgeting. You will be either doing something or the other with your fingers. They will never be steady. So a situation like this or like this will never be there when you are mentally disturbed, right? So fingers are a direct reflection of the state of your mind, and the fingers connect to the mind through the breath. Fingers connect to the mind through the breath. This is very important for us to understand, because in yoga you have something called mudras. Mudras are placement of fingers, and each of these placement of fingers, there are many of them, and this is simply the Jnana Mudra, or when you place it like this, it becomes a Chin Mudra on your lap. We will learn this slowly again. Like I said, I'm just launching this symbolically at this holy place. There is this constant chant going on, and I don't want to discuss technicalities and things like that when there is other kind of sounds. In mudras, the state of your mind can be created by adopting in your fingers, by adopting that in your fingers. So I can create a state of mind with my fingers. But an important element that connects the fingers to the mind is the breath. Because people often say, oh, do this mudra, this will fix your problem here. Or do this mudra, this is going to give you peace of mind. And people do this and I say, oh, I am driving and I am doing it. Or whenever I go for my jogging, I keep my hands in some kind of mudra, and that is not, I don't know if that will work, but it does not work for me. And I don't think that works, because mudra cannot directly cause a change in your mind, because you're forgetting the bridge that connects the two, the breath. And therefore, mudras in yoga is always practiced in conjunction along with the breath. When you practice mudra and breathing together, then the mind becomes that particular mudra that you're creating in your hand. If I create a Mriga mudra, the mudra of a deer, then my mind becomes timid, gentle, graceful, like a deer. If I create a mudra of the Taraksha bird, the bird that can destroy poison and remove poison, then my mind becomes powerful and destroys anything that creates fear in my mind. If I create mudras of the Shank or the conch, then the mudra has the ability, and do pranayama, then the mind develops the ability to create purity. Pavitri karnate Shanka mudra. Shanka mudra is for purity. But these mudras themselves don't have any effect unless it is energized by the wind. Every thought in your mind, there are hundreds of these thoughts, correct? There are let me correct myself. There are thousands of these thoughts in your mind, and these thoughts have no energy, luckily, because thoughts can manifest. All these thoughts find their manifestation. Why don't they then, right? Or if I say, oh my God, I hope there's no snake. Wow, look around. There should be a snake, right? Because it was a thought. It won't. Why? Because these thoughts, these sounds that's created in space, we'll understand that when we go to Chidambaram, and understand the power of sound, because sound is created in space and then it begins to manifest. But all sounds, all thoughts are not manifesting themselves, because when we do mantras and say mantra, this mantra will give you health, you keep chanting the mantra and no health comes, and you say, I don't know, this doesn't work, this is voodoo, this is blind belief, this is superstition, this is stupid. They won't. All thoughts won't manifest, all sounds won't manifest. Why? Because they are not energized or fueled by wind. The wind has to create the fuel. A storm has no meaning if there is no wind. A storm is energized by wind. The water is churned and harnessed by wind. You know, in the water element we said we need to harness the energies of water. We need to awaken the fire element within water. How do you do that? Wind. Wind creates that energy. Wind fuels the sound patterns in your mind. Wind provides energy to the thoughts. There is another chant started somewhere. I'll try and keep this short. I hope it's not disturbing. I'm recording it. I have no way of finding if this is all sounds are impacting, but let me continue. So wind is the one that provides fuel, and therefore that is how important Vayu Tattva, the element of wind, is in your body. When you have racing thoughts, when you have uncontrolled thoughts, when you have impulsive actions, you see something on Amazon and you want to quickly click and buy it, a desire just comes rushing towards you, then you know that my wind has to be controlled, unlike emotions. But if I leave it uncontrolled, it creates emotion. It generates a fire that becomes uncontrollable. Then the water element becomes uncontrollable. And soon I have a raging storm with lightning and water and wind, a hurricane inside my body. And we are so used to these kind of hurricanes now that we consider it normal. But that's not how it's meant to be. And so on this holy temple, the premises of this holy temple, on the banks of a river called Swarnamukhi, what a beautiful name, I teach the secret, if you will, of the wind element, the understanding of the wind element. So examine your impulsive, instinctive thoughts. If you have too many of them, when I say racing thoughts syndrome, is worry syndrome, chronic worries. Your child doesn't respond when you make a phone call, and then instantly your mind goes into racing thought syndrome and you begin to worry. That doesn't help. That doesn't make the child call you back on the phone, but you are creating that. You're creating a storm inside, and then it's fueled by your breath becoming erratic and the rest is history. And so if we keep repeating this again and again, because of our work or because of our life situations, create these storms again and again, guess what is going to happen? It is going to result in some form of chaos or ill health or disease in the body. And with such disease or ill health or constant storms, how can you ever think of meditation, or how can you progress in meditation? You can get brief glimpses of silence and peace. And that itself is great, because that itself energizes. But consider a lifestyle where you have all these 5 elements in balance. How beautiful would that be? Then everything is taken in your stride and you're able to handle all of these. And then meditation becomes even more powerful, more real. The experiences in expansion of consciousness, the experience of understanding different dimensions, all of this begin to make sense. I also want to take this opportunity to introduce, because this is the Vayu element, I want to talk about the Pancha Vayus, the 5 Vayus. And I certainly hope this chant is beautiful, it's soft and it's nice, but the loudspeakers are all over the hill and all over the temple. And therefore, I am not sure. Let me sit here. So let's talk about the 5 Vayus in our body. And again, I'm going to just briefly touch upon these, because this is a holy spot. I want to launch the teaching here with the blessings of these great sages and Nayanars, and Siddhas and yogis who have walked this place or meditated on top of this hill. Look at these rocks. Why wouldn't a yogi want to meditate? So I might be sitting in a place where a great Siddha sat long time ago. The 5 Vayus are Prana, Apana, Dhyana, Samana and Udana. Prana, Apana, Dhyana, Samana and Udana. How do we understand these 5 Vayus, 5 kinds of pressures, if you will, in our body? Prana is from the navel and up. It moves upwards, that which causes you to breathe. The breath that comes in and goes out, that contains the Prana Vayu. Now this Prana is different from the Prana. When we say Prana is the life force, because when you read books on yoga, when you read the scriptures, when you read Tirumandiram, when you read Hatha Yoga Pradipika, they talk of prana as being the source of everything. The prana is the very life force. Prana is a very Shakti principle. Prana is I'm going to pause here for a second because the sun is just rising and it's so beautiful. Take a look at it. So beautiful, so beautiful. Om Hram Mitraya Namaha. Om Hrim Ravaye Namaha. Om Hrum Suryaya Namaha. Om Hraim Bhanave Namaha. Om Hraum Khagaya Namaha. Om Raha Bhaskaraya Namaha. Om Hram Hiranyagarbhaya Namaha. Om Hrim Marichaye Namaha. Om Hrum Adityaya Namaha. Om Hraim Savitre Namaha. Om Hraum Arkaya Namaha. Om Raha Bhaskaraya Namaha. Wow, beautiful. Nature puts on its most fantastic show every morning and every evening, and most of the audience are fast asleep. So the mother prana, the mother of all life forces, that prana is an energy by itself. That is what energizes consciousness and brings out creation. We are not talking of that prana when we talk of the 5 vayus. Okay? The prana that we are talking about here is a prana that helps you breathe, that has an upward movement from the navel and up. When you breathe in and out, when you feel optimistic, when you feel energetic, that is prana in action. The other side, exactly opposite, from the navel and below, there is a downward pressure. That is called apana vayu. Prana, apana. Apana is that which helps you defecate, helps things move out of the body. It has a downward pressure. So when you feel like passing urine, when you feel like your bowel movement takes place, all of that is apana vayu. It pushes and you're able to get rid of stuff out of the body. So apana, when you feel lethargic, when you feel lazy, when you feel drawn down and you feel heavy, you feel depressed, this is all apana vayu in action. We got to understand them because these vayus work with the element. I was going to say elephant. The vayus work with the elements. The prana vayu works with the wind element. Apana vayu works with the earth element. Okay, and to some extent water as well, because both follow gravity. But predominantly apana is earth element. Then you have Vyana. Vyana is Sarva Vyapikudu, we'll say. Sarva Vyapikudu means Vyana signifies omnipresence. Vyana is all over. It goes in all directions. It's like these little volunteers ready to do everything. So Vyana is connected to the nadis, to the nerves, to the nervous system. And Vyana is connected to the water element. So it is important for us to understand, control the water element, because the nervous system comes under control. So Vyana is all over the body, connected with the water element. When you have talent expressing itself, when you have creative expressions, understand these are expressions of Vyana. Okay? I'm just giving you broadly some areas to think about in your meditation. Then comes Samana. Samana is in the navel region. Right in the middle is Samana. From Samana, prana goes up. Apana goes down. Vyana, from Samana, Vyana goes to all over the body. Samana is like the main control switch. Samana Vayu is the commander-in-chief of the army. He decides how to fight the weaknesses in your body, how to distribute the energy from food and everything. Everything is determined by Samana Vayu. When you take the prana inside your body, Samana takes that energy, the life force, and then distributes it to different parts of your body. Samana is the son of Shiva, the Lord Kartikeya. That is why he has 6 heads with the 6 chakras. He governs all the 6 chakras. So Samana Vayu is right in the center of the body. Samana Vayu is about steadiness. Samana Vayu is about balance. Samana is the core of yoga practice. Okay, that is the fire element, linked to the fire element because it is about digestion. Then you have, so you did prana, apana, vyana, samana and udana. Udana is above the throat and above the throat. Udana vayu is that vayu which helps you connect to other dimensions. Udana vayu is that which speaks to you in your dreams. Udana vayu is that which helps the awakening of the kundalini. Udana vayu is what you experience when you get a sense of high, when you're listening to a bhajan, or when you're deep in prayer, when you kneel down in a church, or when you put your head down in a mosque, or when you're seated with your eyes closed in front of the idol in a temple, and suddenly you feel this sense of floating, a sense of high. Tears flow, and there is this immense beauty and joy filling you up. Udana is coming, Udana is getting into play. And that Udana, if you are able to understand and activate through yoga practices, these kind of amazing experiences are at your beck and call. So the 5 values have to be understood, and the balance in these 5 values is what brings about a great sense of health, well-being in your body, in your mind, and in your spirit. So on this holy place of Sri Kalahasti, with prayers to Kannappa Nayanar, whose shrine is right there. This was the only place, believe me, this was the only place I could find a spot where there is relatively silent. And I hope this recording has come out well. Well, it's the universe planning. With their blessings, with the blessings of this great sage, with the blessings of the Siddhas and the yogis, I share these perspectives and offer them for your consideration, for your meditation, for your learning. Awaken the inner guru within you. Don't take my words directly. Take my words, understand them, and then contemplate. I keep saying this almost in every video. Contemplate. This is what this Kaivalya Marga is all about. There is no meditation without contemplation. Contemplation is the key. Gautama became the Buddha, Siddhartha became Gautama Buddha, because he contemplated. He was exposed to the Sankhya philosophy of Bhagavad Gita because it was part of Hinduism, right? He was exposed to the Jainism, the Mahavira teachings, and then he took and contemplated, and then he came out with his own understanding of truth. This is very, very, very important because each one of us is unique. There is no one like you in this earth, on this earth, and therefore the way you think, nobody else can think. So believe in your thoughts, keep your mind open to learning, and keep assimilating information, processing information. Take a few minutes every day to do these meditations, and then slowly things will begin to make actual sense, and all this philosophy and theory that you have heard so far becomes a real experience. So much so for the wind element. This beautiful temple located on the banks of Swarnamukhi. May the Shiva guide the Vayus within us. May the Shakti and Shiva together awaken this divine potential that we call the Kundalini, our own dormant divinity. May she awaken through our practice of yoga, pranayama, bhakti, devotion, with an element of discipline. And may we experience the Shiva consciousness, which is what I believe to be the very purpose of life. Thank you for watching. Namaste.
Shiva.
When I watch these videos, it takes me back to those sacred places, and the mind stops in silence. So let us take leave with these sacred thoughts in our mind. Think about the strength that comes from Vayu. Think about the equanimity and the connection of the breath with that fundamental principle of spiritual practice. Think about the connection of the body and the mind through the breath. And breath itself has 5 categories: prana, apana, samana, udana, and vyana. Until we meet again, stay blessed and stay inspired. Thank you as always for watching. Let us end this class with 1 Om and 3 Shantis. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.